the chorus line to that? What was the chorus of that?
All I want to do is come and worship you.
All I want to do is come and worship you. Huh.
All I want to say is praises to your name. And all I want to know is
And all right, so all I want to do is worship you. All I want to know is the power of your Spirit. And we deceive each other, or we deceive ourselves every time we say that. Let me be honest. All I want to do is worship you. All I want to do is know the Spirit, or your Spirit. Oh, look, a squirrel. Right? So, it's a very fitting thing. Very fitting thing. And then I had a conversation with Lorraine before we started about something totally unrelated that also kind of shot something at me. Okay? And it may not be what you had in mind as far as that verse goes. I understand where you were going with the verse, but let me read you the verse. It's in Vayesheiv 3:15. And I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your seed and her seed. It shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel. Okay, so two different peoples, Christian circles. Oh, well, you know, Jesus is going to bruise the head of Satan. Everything in the Torah, from one end, from the very first verse, all the way to the very last verse, deals with this letter, Tet. Okay? Tet is composed of the Vav, that represents you and I, and the Zion, that represents the word, the power of Seh HaElohim to protect us, nourish us, bring us rest. So in our choice, we can either submit ourselves like the Vav, bowing down before the word in submission to Elohim, submitting himself, or we can crawl on our bellies like the Nachash. You kind of look at it, it looks like a snake. So, crush the head. All right, let's think about crushing the head. The crushing of the head is something that happens to us every day, as opposed to us crushing the head of the serpent. Because our head, where our mental faculties, our spiritual faculties are kept, is the thing that is constantly being disturbed, because we're constantly bruising our heel, being, sidetracked. Not sidetracked. What is the word? Distracted. Yes, we're looking for the squirrel. That keeps us from looking at the right choice in this. And so, when you were singing that, I was saying, I wish that were true. I wish that I could have that much stronger of a relationship. And in this Torah portion, Vayesheiv, I looked at it when I was putting it together. I said, "Oh my goodness." So let's talk to our Elohim, and we'll take a look at this Torah portion. Father, thank you for this opportunity to draw closer to you, to be in the presence of your Spirit, to be conscious of your presence. We ask that you'll open our eyes, open our ears, and open our hearts, so that we can indeed worship you and know your Spirit. We thank you in the name of Yahusha. Amen. All right, so Vayesheiv means and dwelt. Okay? But Vayesheiv, from the root yashab, also means to be married to, or to be bound to. Okay, so from these two dreams, or from these, well, actually, we're going to look at both of Joseph's dreams, and we're going to look at both of Pharaoh's dreams. We're not going to really touch on the butcher, the baker, and the candlestick maker in the middle. Okay? But two different dreams, or actually 4 different dreams, 2 different people, and how these dreams affect us. Because we can either be Joseph, or we can be Pharaoh. Okay? So topically, we look at the first dream. Joseph has the dream about, everybody's bowing down to him, including the moon and the stars. And we see that later on he's going to become the governor of Egypt, and everybody's going to worship him, so that's going to come true. And topically, we look at Pharaoh's dreams, as there's going to be a big famine, and 7 good years followed by 7 bad years, and Joseph's going to pull off his Superman shirt and save the day. So that's what we read in this, okay? But how does it relate to us? If we say Torah's instruction, how can we take these events and look at them and relate it to something that makes us aware, okay? An awareness. Am I worshiping? Am I truly seeking the spirit of my Elohim? So it's from this understanding of the underlying meaning of these two sets of dreams from two different people that we're going to gain some insight as to where we are and what course corrections we need to get us back to the right river that flows out of Eden. Remember, there was a river that flowed out of Eden that had 4 heads. Only one head surrounded the land of Havilah, where there is gold and all the precious gems, which is the one that we need to find in order to get back to Eden. The other one dealt with darkness and confusion. Okay? So, says we're going to start at Vayesheiv 37:4, but I want us to consider something before we do, and it's at 37:3, actually. Well, I better get to the right chapter, because we don't want to read about Cain and Abel back in the day. Okay. So 3 says, Now Israel loved Joseph more than all of his children, because he was the son of his old age. And he made for him a coat of many colors. And we get all kinds of wonderful, exciting things about coat of many colors. And it had all the colors of the rainbow, or it had all the colors of all the gemstones and the breastplates, and it represented all the tribes of Israel. And so, what does coat of many colors mean? It's ketonet pasim. Ketonet can mean coat. Can mean coat. More specifically, ketonot means an undergarment. Something that you wear underneath your coat. Okay? And the word pasim is something that was made by hand. It's also something, pasim is also a word that means something that extended all the way to the hand and extended all the way to the feet. So, what was it? This coat of many colors. It was an undergarment that covered the body completely. This would have been a very special gift to receive, because in those times, to hand weave something, you were lucky if you got the skin to cover your back and maybe a wool thing that came off the animal that you could cover your exterior with, but to have something underneath was really fantastic, and to have something that was handmade by someone who loved you was just one of those crazy things. So why does this, how does this fit in? Well, notice that in the verse, it doesn't say, and Jacob gave to Joseph. It says Israel gave this to Joseph. So the right state of mind provides the covering that our fruitfulness needs in order to be able to overcome what the next few verses are going to tell us. And what the next few verses are going to tell us, we start in verse 4. It says, And when his brethren saw that their father loved him more than all of his brethren, they hated him and could not speak peaceably unto him. And Joseph dreamed a dream, and he told it to his brethren, and they hated him even more. And he said to them, Hear, I pray you, this dream that I have dreamed. So I have this covering from head to toe that I am given by Israel. Okay? That I am head to toe from a gift to the Father that comes to me and helps me to be part of the Prince of Elohim. Helps me to be complete. But what happens? External factors start to weigh in. He got this thing, and immediately his brothers, the people around him, start to give him all kinds of flack about it. So, firstly, we consider that it is from external factors that our choices come from and our decisions are made. He's getting a bunch of heat. Is he thinking about, all I want to do is worship you? All I want to do is feel the presence of your Spirit? No. He's getting beaten up by these people because all he can seem to do is tell his father about the ill report, the bad things that he's doing. So is he actually being the Prince of Elohim? He sees things from a different perspective. Is he seeing things from a perspective where he's closer to Elohim? Or is he seeing things closer to this perspective? What does the Torah say? It says, do not bear false witness. It says, love your neighbor as yourself. It says, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Okay? But he's over here with the nachash and the evil inclination. And say, they're talking bad about me, I'm going to talk bad about them, and blah, 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 blah. So he gives a bad report. So external factors affect the choices that, or affect the things from which our decisions are made. So here we can consider that the factors are disagreeable and cause some discomfort and some concern. Okay. So I'm sure that nobody in this room has disagreeable factors in their life right now. Okay, so I'm probably preaching to the choir because my life is perfect. I don't have any problems. Okay? And my grandmother's the Pope. You've probably heard of her, Juanita Paulette I. She has a nice oceanside place in Arizona. Yeah. So we all have disagreeable things in our life. Am I saying, I want to worship you, Yahuwah? I want to feel the presence of your Spirit. Or am I saying, oh look, there's a squirrel? Am I chasing after something other than that relationship? Okay? So let's consider, first of all, the word for dream, which is in this case is chalom, that also means to bind, but more importantly, to like something that is good. Nobody in here, I'm sure, likes things that are good, because we really enjoy all the disagreeable factors in our lives. So we want to push away the good stuff because we're content to take care of the disagreeable factors, right? What did we pray for earlier today when we prayed for everyone? We prayed for good things to come into your life. Okay? So chalom. So we have two dreams then that kind of give us a look into ourselves and how we handle disagreeable factors, to either embrace the disagreeable factors or find the good within those disagreeable factors and embrace the good and move towards eliminating the disagreeable, because we basically we water and we nourish the good within those. So let's take a look at these two dreams. The first one is Joseph's dreams. For behold, we were binding sheaves in the field, and lo, my sheaf arose and stood upright. And behold, your sheaves became round about, and bowed down before my sheaf. Don't you love King Jimmy? Can't wait till he vows these and thums. And his brethren said unto him, Shalt thou indeed reign over us? Or shalt thou indeed have dominion over us? And they hated him yet more for his dreams and for his words. So, this first dream is strictly an earthly, or this dream is strictly a earthly or physical dream involving the act of binding sheaves of grain. We have to put forth labor in our lives to create the life we desire, to have, and that we desire to have. I'm going to learn to read my writing one of these days. We all have to put in work to have the life that we desire to have. Okay? And every sheaf that we seem to collect, be it savings or luxuries or whatever physical thing that we acquire, finds itself subservient to the act of always having to acquire more in order to support the previous. We go out to get stuff, but then we have to get more stuff in order to support the stuff that we have. Even works with mutual funds and all that stuff. I have to add to it in order for it to keep going. Or I have to buy batteries for the radio. Or I have to buy batteries for the remote. I'm just now learning how to use. Trina still has to work the remote for me because I said, how do I get this off of here? So we're always looking for stuff, but we always need more stuff to support the stuff that we get. Okay? But work is work. We have to pay the electric bill every month. We have to pay the light bill or the water bill every month. We have to buy food. In my house twice a day. So we have to do things constantly in this particular idea of collecting sheaves. But what we see here is there are two sides to us. There's two sides to us all. No, wait, I'm getting ahead of myself. Okay, the end result is resentment over always having to do something to keep something else from falling down. We always have to do something to keep something else from falling apart. Okay? If you say you don't, then you are actually listening to the words of the song. Okay? But we kind of established that we don't always listen to the words of that song. Okay? So basically, and they hated him even more for his dreams and for his words. Yet our physical existence is not all there is. Joseph's dreams have two aspects. They have a physical aspect, and they're also going to have a spiritual aspect. And the spiritual aspect is found in the next one. And he dreamed yet another dream, and told it to his brethren, and said, and behold, I have dreamed yet a dream, and behold, the sun and the moon and the 11 stars bowed down to me. So what we consider in our quest to acquire and make our physical existence comfortable, our spiritual side suffers as it bows down to our desire to be fruitful, to Joseph. Okay? So our physical desire to acquire, to collect and bind the sheaves, affects our spiritual needs. And this is seen in this. The sun, the moon, and the 11 stars bow down before Joseph. Okay? So our fruitfulness is affected because our spiritual side is not in balance. And that's the key. It's not in balance. All right? So the main point that we have to therefore understand in this is that these verses illustrate for us a lack of balance between our physical and spiritual sides. These two dreams point out to us that we neglect our spiritual gathering of sheaves in order to spend our time gathering our physical sheaves. What we see is two sides of us all, and that we have to become aware of ourselves either being balanced physically and spiritually, or being out of balance. How do you get off balance? When you're walking along and you step on something and it causes your heel to slip out and you kind of get off balance, you get on a 3-foot ladder. Okay? So something bruises our heel. And because it bruises our heel, one aspect of us causes the other aspect to be damaged. You'll bruise his heel, but he'll bruise your head, or kind of thing. Okay? All right. So the verses thus open our eyes to the need for a course adjustment. What we consider in this dream is a mindset that is aware of our need for balance and a mindset that can make the necessary adjustments. In other words, our desire for fruitfulness seeks its path in the spiritual realm, not necessarily strictly from a physical, carnal point of view. What does that mean? My desire is to build a relationship with my Elohim. I desire to worship you. I desire to know the presence of your Spirit, even though I have to work at collecting sheaves. Sheaves. You got sheaths on the brain. sheaves. Okay? All right. So two aspects of us. Two sides that we see in Joseph. Two sides that we see in someone who is wearing the undergarment given to him by the Father that makes him a Prince of Israel. Or a Prince of Elohim. What is the other side of us? Well, the other side deals with Pharaoh. And let's take a look at what Pharaoh's doing. Because the dreams of Pharaoh are a completely different mindset. And I would venture to say that the dreams of Pharaoh are the mindset that most of us walk in most of the time. Okay? So it was very eye-opening for me. So hopefully it'll do that for you. So Vayesheiv 41:1. And it came to pass at the end of 2 full years that Pharaoh dreamed, and behold, he stood by a river. What are we trying to find? We're trying to find the right river that takes us back to Eden. So he's standing by a river. So Pharaoh is a representation of the ego, the part of us that is strictly concerned with our carnal existence. Let's look at the phrase, and it came to pass at the end of 2 full years. The first word is Vayesheiv from the root chaya that means to exist. In other words, and pass, or and it came to pass is what Vayesheiv would mean. But this root is also the root of the name Yahuwah. So we have to consider that it is within Yahuwah that we live and move and have our existence. Paul, when he's making his speech in Acts, tells us that we are not aware of Yahuwah's presence. That we have to become aware because it is within him that we live and move and have our existence. And this is when he sees the little statue that says, the unknown deity. He says, you can know who that is. He surrounds you. He infills you. He's everywhere. And he says, but you're not conscious of this. But it is within him that you live and move and have your existence. That's what he says in that little piece there. So, Yahuwah, we have to consider that it's within Yahuwah that we live and move and have our existence. But this concept is lost on Pharaoh, our ego. Why would it be lost on our ego? Because we're too busy trying to collect sheaves so that we can have stuff, so that we can go back to the store and get more stuff to support the stuff that we have, because it's a constant battle to keep up with the Joneses, right? So the concept is lost on Pharaoh. What affects him is found in the word used for at the end, which is maketz, that also refers to external things. One of the roots of this word is kasatz, that means to be disconnected from. So we can formulate from this word an idea of being disconnected from Yahuwah because of external things. So we have this word for 2 and the word for year, and they share the same root, which is shana, that means to change or to alter. So in this, it is in changes and alterations to our course as directed by the ego, Pharaoh, that we lose our sense of direction, finding the right branch of the river that leads back to Eden. Behold, he stood by the river. Are we truly able to and behold, which is vechene, pay attention, when we're concerned with the alterations of the things in our life that affect the vav, which is our carnal side? So let's read Pharaoh's dreams in these next few verses. And behold, there came up out of the river 7 kine, well-favored and fat-fleshed, and they fed in the reed grass. I feel like I should be wearing medieval attire or something, like Chaucer used to wear when I read this stuff. And behold, 7 other kine came up after them out of the river, ill-favored and lean-fleshed, and stood by the other kine upon the brink of the river. And the ill-favored and lean-fleshed kine did eat up the 7 well-favored and fat kine. So Pharaoh awoke. And he slept and dreamt a second time. And behold, 7 ears of corn came up, 1 stalk, rank and good. And behold, 7 ears, thin and blasted, with the east wind sprung up after them. And the thin ears swallowed up the 7 rank and full ears. And Pharaoh awoke, and behold, it was a dream. Okay, so we look at this, and we know the whole story of the event. Okay, there's going to be a famine, and he's going to appoint Joseph as the governor over the whole thing, because Joseph interprets it and says, dude, we're not going to have any food here in 7 years. We need to store it. So I guess that's the greatest thing that Pharaoh has ever heard, because he makes him second in command only to Pharaoh over everything, because Joseph tells him this. But what we don't see in these dreams is a spiritual reference. Both of these dreams are strictly carnal in nature. One deals with cattle, the other one deals with corn. One deals with wealth, one deals with food. Okay? Supply, having stuff, and having food. Two things that we concern ourselves with. Okay? So Joseph dreamed of physical things in the gathering of the sheaves, but he also dreamt of heavenly things, spiritual things, in the dream about the sun, the moon, and the stars. Pharaoh only dreams about carnal things. Okay, the ego loses sight of the spiritual and only seeks remedy for change in the physical realm. The result of this course of action is found in verse 8 that says, "And it came to pass in the morning that his spirit was troubled, and he sent and called for all the magicians of Egypt and all the wise men thereof, and Pharaoh told them his dream, but there was none that could interpret them to Pharaoh." So we read this verse, and the words of that song come rushing to us, that all I want to do is worship you, and all I want to do is seek your spirit. But it doesn't say any of that here. It says that he went to all the other sources other than the source that could actually help him to find an answer. Okay? He's still in this mentality. He's not over here submitting himself to Elohim. Okay? And we're going to see that here in just a second. So we become troubled and anxious. The ego, however, does not seek Yahuwah. It must submit to the Spirit in order for that to occur. Our ego must submit to the Spirit in order for us to get true revelation as to what direction we need to take. Okay? Nobody could interpret what Pharaoh needed. We can consider this idea that we must seek Elohim in order to get the answer in this next verse, or in verses 14 through 16. It says, "Then Pharaoh sent and called Joseph, and they brought him hastily out of the dungeon, and he shaved himself and changed his clothes and came to Pharaoh." So the first thing that has to happen is Pharaoh sent and called Joseph. The word for "and sent" is Vayeshalach, that comes from the root shalach, that means to reach out to, but it also means to send away. So it has a positive note that I have to reach out for something, but it also has this other idea that I have to send something away. Okay? So let's take a look at the prefixes in Vayeshalach. We have Vai, and, basically, is composed of the Yod, which represents for us the truth, power, and the ability of Yahuwah our Elohim. You understand the Hebrew letters. When the Yod touches the paper, the letter's formed. The Yod is the first, makes the letter, a Vav, and when the pen leaves the paper, it's the last. So it composes the first, middle, and last of the alphabet, which is the word emet, that means truth. Yod is the root letter of the name Yahuwah. Okay? So it represents the truth and the power of Yahuwah our Elohim to bring manifestation. And then we also have the letter Vav that represents our carnal side. It's the 6th letter of the alphabet. On the 6th day, humankind was created. All right? So here in this word, Vi, we can consider that the first step that we have to take is to reach out towards the Yod, the truth, power, and the ability of Yahweh Elohim, while at the same time sending our Vav, carnal mindset, away.